Well, I'm going to turn a leg for the chair, double bobbin leg, like I was saying the other day. Going to do this in the double bobbin version. So this will be the leg right here that I'll be turning. And let me put my glasses on. See what we got. So first of all, there's a 1/4 inch difference between the front leg and the rear leg, and that's to give it a 3/4 inch, that's to give the seat a 3/4 inch cant or tilt. So as I've explained in some previous videos, you get a 1/2 inch of that tilt just from the rear leg having more rake, and then you cut it a 1/4 inch shorter, and you get a 3/4 inch difference. Now you can go ahead and turn them all the same length and then level the chair to those specs whenever you're ready, or you can turn them 1/4 inch difference whenever you're ready. I do them both ways, just whatever mood I'm in, I guess. Now up here with the taper, you'll see there's a line that's in about a 1/2 inch or so, a little more, and that says 11/16, and that's because I drill 11/16 hole in the seat, and so you got to have a little bit sticking out to get the wedge in there. So the 11/16 diameter is actually a tad bit back from the end. On some prior plans I had it out here, but that wasn't right, so I fixed it. So it's back here now. And then you got a score line here, and that is a depth line. It's take the score line down to the seat on the acute angle side. But as you've seen in some videos where I assemble a chair, and we'll eventually get to this one, I don't actually go by that line. I use a pair of dividers and go by where the stretcher goes in. I like it a little better, a little easier to see, a little more accurate, but you can do it either way. Then on these V-grooves here, you need to get those wide enough if you're going to paint them a different color like I do, like on the chair that I'm doing, it's black with red V-grooves. You got to get it wide enough to get the paintbrush in there. So so don't get those things too narrow. I show, what do I show here? I show 3/16 width, and that's probably right, hope. And then on my double bobbins, I have slight concavity coming down off of all the V-grooves. I like that kind of flare that it gives. It kind of lifts the chair up a tad bit, as opposed to some that you see that are a little bit bulbous there. But then again, it's just a matter of opinion and aesthetics. Okay, that's about it. We'll go to the chair, and I'll show you what it looks like on the chair, and then we'll start getting the piece ready. All right, so right there's what I'm getting ready to turn, and as I've said before, this is out of red oak. Not typically what I turn, and pretty coarse to turn. I mean, when I start turning over here, it's certainly not going to be as pretty as turning that maple where it comes off in a nice string. And I'm going to turn air dried red oak instead of partially green. So you know, this is one neat thing about this chair for those of you who don't live in the Appalachian mountain chain and you have a hard time getting green wood, is this chair can be made pretty much from just lumber. You could saw it. I mean, you know, it's best if you can get the log and split it out, but you could saw stuff and make this out of it. But so to go over a few of the reasons why I like why I'm using red oak for these legs instead of maple is because one is you don't need the crisp clean lines that maple gives you on those baluster turnings here. Red oak will do. Red oak is strong enough, but it's pretty light. So this chair comes out, depending on how much pitch is in the pine seat, this chair can come out weighing about 9 pounds. Pretty incredible for something that's supposed to hold somebody up that weighs 250 pounds day in and day out. And then, you know, you get the open grain of the oak showing through the milk paint. Anyway, so here's the leg that I'll be turning, and for those of you who don't have the plans, this is 19 7/16. this is an inch and 9/16, that's an inch and 5, and it's 6 7/8 between the bobbins. Go down to about 7/8 here, and then whatever foot you want on it, and this just matches your reamer, your taper there of your reamer. So here's the split piece of red oak, that nice straight grain. Like I said, it's going to turn kind of coarse, not quite as fun to turn, but I like the results of this stuff. So I'll find the center, just guess it, you know, pop it in there, and then I'll see you when I'm on the lathe. Alright, so I got the tool rest set up, and I turned with a wooden tool rest. I like them, like the way they feel on my fingers. So I've got it set up 2 inches from the center, and I've driven the drive center and the headstock into here, and sort of estimated where the center is here. So now I can mount it on the lathe, lock down that. Okay, see if it clears. And then the other thing you can do is you can see if your piece is gonna make. Now, one thing you see, I got these corners on here, and some of you all might like to knock the corners off prior, and that's one way of doing it. Makes a lot of sense. I usually just turn the lathe up and knock them off with the gouge. You don't want bark on there. You want to take the bark off. The bark's dirty. You know, you want to take that, and you want to take those things off right there. They'll beat your hands to death. So let's see what I got. Got all those things off. Yeah. So I think, and my tools stay right over here. But since we're going to bring the camera around over here to try to show this, I've got them behind me. I have to reach back and get them. So anyway, we'll bring the camera around and get right on top of it, and I'll show you how I measure and set it up, and then we'll turn it. So you know, you can measure to see if your piece is going to make, because I put the tool rest up 2 inches from the center, and so then by doing a little math, I can just measure right in here and do a little addition and subtraction and figure out if this needs to be moved this way or this way in order for it to make. So this one's gonna make. So I'm gonna go ahead, crank in the tailstock there, lock it down, and make sure once again that it's gonna miss my tool rest. You don't want it to get that tool rest. Okay. And I'm gonna start out on. I don't know how fast I turn. This is an old lathe, but I'll start out kind of medium, and just as I knock off the corners, then I'll crank it up to the high speed to round it down. I usually turn at the final turning at a lower speed, but we'll crank it up here. So you cut up high. Probably already tell if you've watched me turn the maple, and it'll turn like maple. Use my finger as a depth guide. Works out real well. So that's set for the largest diameter, which is 1 inch and 9/16. So what I do is round down all the legs and then take them off, put them to the side, move my tool rest up, and also put in, let me go get it. I change out the drive, the headstock with this step center. I like to use it, but it doesn't have enough grip to round down stuff like that. So I'll change this out and then we'll come back. So right here is what I'm getting ready to turn, and I'm going to put it right over here so you can kind of keep up with what I'm doing. Fairly simple turning, but also the simpler things are, the more you really have to nail the little small details that are on it in order for it to look good. Which would be, you know, sharp lines right out here, nice looking V's, and then the way these comes off into a sweep, concave sweep off of the bobbin. So I'll put that right there. There's my layout stick. Look at that. I'm a little long. Doesn't hurt anything. Okay, here we go. Those of you who have seen the other videos of me turning a baluster turning, you notice I don't use a parting tool because I was self-taught and I didn't have a parting tool at the time. But by the time I started turning these, I had a parting tool, so I turned these with parting tool. Let's see. So there's my calipers on there. There's a Henry 5/16. What's that? That's good. This is the beginning of the taper right here. Open grain oak. Scratch a little bit. That looks good for that. And this one, I'll hold it up like that. And we still need to what else we got? That looks good. Now I'm going to mark the bobbins. Beginning of the taper. And I'm going to keep trying to put my tool over here in the tool rest, but I don't want it to bother the camera view. Now the reason I stopped right there is I'm going to go ahead and cut my V-groove, so I'll come up, kind of clean up where that is. You can cut it after you do the tapers. There's one half dozen on another. One of the advantages of cutting it right now, if you do corkscrew a little bit with the toe, it can usually be fixed. Whereas if you've already cut your tapers, you might corkscrew down the taper and it's over with. So this cuts easy. Go in with the toe, come over here, move it to about 20-some degrees. Tilt your blade just a tad. Oh, didn't get it that time. Going.
side needs to be cut just a little bit more. That's nice. Okay, that looks good. Now, on this, this is where the taper to fit up into the seat's going to be cut. And I'm not going to turn it to final dimension right now. I'm going to turn everything else, and then I'll dry that in the kiln for 24 hours or so, and then bring it out and turn it to final. So it's got a little nest right here. So you always cut downhill. And then I'll go ahead and cut this one now. Start down at the bottom and establish your taper, and then work your way up. Keep your chisel cutting high. You'll have a tendency to bring it down low. You don't want to do that. The way you find that spot, you push your bevel up against the turning, lift up with your right hand or whatever hand you have down there, and as soon as it makes contact, that's where you want to cut. Turn this off a second. So I put a spoke shave finish on these, and because I like those little facets that anyway, I think it adds something to it. But so you could just go straight to the spoke shave right here. The only thing is you probably have to take 2 passes with the spoke shave to get all the gouge marks. So if I go over it with my skew chisel, that's too fat right there. I'm going to hit that again with the gouge before we go any further. But if I go over it with my skew chisel, and it's a little bulbous there, got to pay attention to what I'm doing. If I go over with skew chisel and clean it up, then I can take 1 spoke shave cut and it works. So I'm going to clean it up with skew chisel here. This is a little tricky getting this skew chisel started right here. There's no bearing surface. You got that V. A good reason for cutting the V after you turn. But bouncing on that open grain of the oak. On the maple, it doesn't do that. Looks like. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to spoke shave. I didn't come together right there. Didn't connect the skew chisel cuts in right there either, but that'll be easy, since if I was not gonna spoke shave it, then I'd go ahead and go back with skew chisel and get that spot and that spot there. Everything else looks really good, so I'm gonna stick this in the kiln, and then next time you see this thing, I'll put it back on the lathe to true this and put a spoke shave finish on it.